Year, friends. I hope that you are well and the new year is treating you favorably. May this new year bring us the best of everything, because Lord knows that 2022 was hard, and may we not be on the list of the strong warriors this year. My name is IBUKUN and welcome to Makeup and Gist. Well, Makeup and Gist is a series on my channel where I talk about anything history, any historical gist, any historical scandal, anything that strikes my curiosity, and I think that you need to know. Today's story shocked me the most because as of a month ago, I had never heard the story of the MV Joola. Now, this was a Senegalese owned ferry that had capsized off the coast of Gambia. The incident has been described as one of the worst maritime disasters. As an African, and I'm sure I can speak for all Africans when I say that everybody knows the story of the Titanic. But what is even more disheartening is that we don't hear this story enough. Over 1,900 lives were lost, 444 of which were children, 1,201 were male victims, and 682 were females. Now, mind you, more lives were lost on the Joola than on the Titanic. There were only 68 survivors, out of which only one was a woman. Not only Senegalese lives were lost that day, but also included people from other nationalities. This story not having enough coverage is one of the many examples of apathy from the Western media in telling African stories and African disasters. They are so much focused in talking about war, famine, corruption, than actually talk about issues of human interest and human development. And when I say human, I mean us Africans, our issues, our disasters, and our development. Let me take you on a bit of colonizers' history. So as we know, Senegal was colonized by France. And one thing we know about our colonizers is that they would always develop a region at the expense of the other. Now, this was what happened in Senegal. They had developed Dakar, which is the capital city of Senegal. Dakar had all the infrastructure, they had the good roads, they had the good stuff, while other regions were rather left underdeveloped. Even after they had packed their ships and left, this was still the issue. Dakar was more developed than other regions. Again, if we look at the history of Senegal, Dakar is by the coast. It's like the smallest region in Senegal, but also the most populated region in Senegal. People that had to travel from other parts of the country had two options. They had to either go by road, but road was not the best solution because the roads were bad, it was a bit expensive, and also because of how they had partitioned the region, you somehow had to go through Gambia to enter Dakar. So most people found the boat as a more simpler, faster, and cheaper alternative. The boat was used to transport economic operators, that is people that sold agricultural produce from regions of Senegal into Dakar. Now, these regions include Ziguinchor, and Casamance. So people from these regions will carry their produce from these areas and come and sell them in Dakar, and will also take things from Dakar and to sell them in their area. Now, as you could tell, this boat was very vital for economic trade. The Joola had the capacity to take at least 536 passengers and 35 vehicles. It was just like any other day. It was a Thursday. It was a new chance for you to hustle. It was a new chance for you to make things happen for you. You kiss your family goodbye, you kiss your loved ones goodbye. You tell them that, oh, I'm gonna be back, I will see you later this evening. But how sure are you that you'll be returning? That is the story of thousands of family in Senegal. Mikel Diatta was a professional football player. He ran a local football academy and he had taken about 35 children for a field trip in Dakar, and they were going to be using the Joola. Mostly for this part, I'm going to be using stories of some survivors from that day. Lamin Koli was the only survivor out of 35 people that had traveled from his village and were going to Dakar. Mariama Diop, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrongly, but Mariama was the only female survivor of that disaster. Mariama tells us about how she had arrived to the port late that day because she had trouble sleeping, and when she got to the harbor, they told her that the boat was full, so she couldn't get on. However, there was someone that was that had left something at home, so he said, okay, he and Mariama struck a deal that they would exchange his ticket for her money. So they had begun their journey. They were like on the deck, and they were just like enjoying the breeze and like watching nature. Little did they know that nature was about to fuck them up. So it started to rain, and then they were advised that they had to go into the cabin to wait the rain out. When they got into their cabins, then that's when they realized that, oh shit, this boat is very full. Now survivors would say how the boat was so cramped with people, and they couldn't even walk. Like you had to walk sideways, because if you walk straight, you're going to hit someone. The boat started tipping. It was going this way, it was swaying, and then the light started flickering on, off, on, and finally it went off. And that was when chaos and panic unfolded. People started feeling water beneath their feet. They realized that the boat had totally capsized. People were drowning all over. Those that could swim tried to like save people, but it wasn't possible. They were in the middle of the ocean. There was no help around. There was no life jackets. There were no life rafts. It was just total chaos. While the boat had capsized, obviously people were also trapped in the hull of the boat. Mariama told us that she had come to terms that she was going to die, and she was actually 4 months pregnant when all this was happening. And then she kept thinking about her unborn child. Ouch. She kept thinking about her unborn child, but when she thought about her child, like, oh my god, I'm carrying this child, I have to fight for this child, then she lifted her head up and she was able to float to the surface of the ocean. Now when she floated to the top, there were also some survivors like Lamin Koli that were able to like hang on to the hull of the boat, and then some people helped her get on top. Now this had happened at 4 a.m. They were just in the ocean and then just stranded, and there was no help around, and people were just drowning all over them. People were screaming for help, but they couldn't save them. Can you imagine the amount of therapy or help that you would need after you had seen something like this? Like, this is stuff out of your worst nightmare. This is so terrifying, and I am so it's terrifying. It is. You're in the ocean, you're stranded, this darkness, pitch darkness. You can hear people screaming around you for help, and you can do nothing because you're not even sure if yourself you're going to survive. And to make matters worse, these guys didn't get help to the following day. They were stranded on the ocean for about 10 hours. See, 10 hours of hearing people dying around you, and you can do nothing about it. There were no proper rescue systems for them. It was actually Gambian fishermen that were on site that were able to pull out the 68 people that had survived. It's so daunting because if they had help in time, they might have been able to survive. But over 10 hours on the ocean and no help. As we know how our leaders like to behave, they would come and make a speech, or we're gonna get into the roots of the problem, find people responsible, and justice will be meted out, and blah 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 blah. The president of Senegal, Abdoulaye Wade, made a speech, and then they began an investigation. The conclusion of the investigation was that wreckage was blamed on blatant and repeated failures. Closed the case. Commander or captain of the ship, Issa Diarra, he was declared solely responsible for the tragedy. Now, where is Issa Diarra, you might ask? We don't know where he is. We don't know if he was involved in the sinkage, if he had also drowned, if he managed to escape. There has been no criminal prosecution for this gross misconduct, this incompetence that could have easily been remedied if they had like the proper measures and had put checks in place. All this wouldn't have happened. So many lives would not have been lost mindlessly. Under pressure, 2 ministers in charge of shipping resigned, but they are back in office now, and they are flourishing. They're cool, just vibes, and inshallah. The boat had hit a storm that night. but there were also various factors that led to the wreckage, and of course we know who can be held responsible for that: the government. Further investigation will show that the boat had series of mechanical and engine issues, so it was decommissioned for a year. The boat had resumed operation 2 weeks before it capsized. Also, the boat wasn't properly ballasted, that is, it lacked stability. The boat was already like this. Secondly, there was also the problem of overcrowding. Remember, I had said earlier that the boat was supposed to take at least 536 people. Somehow over 2,000 people were on the bus. There was bribery going on, and people could actually get onto the boat without buying a ticket. Normal procedures were disregarded when loading the ships. Passengers and cargoes, everything was just on the upper deck. Like, there were so many things that they could have done to make the boat safe. Thirdly, there were no life rafts on the boat. There were no life jackets. All this was just like an accident waiting to happen. And who was in charge of all of this? Ding 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 ding, correctly, your government. Now again, you remember we said that it took over 10 hours for Navy to be alerted, and you might be asking, why was that? Apparently an SOS never went out. The boat lacked the emergency communication system used by ships all around. I mean, the general incompetence of everything that just happened that day is really mind-boggling. There has been no criminal prosecution up to date. The government did go ahead and compensate the victims. They replaced the Joola. They also had like cemeteries for the victims. They also did say that they were going to make like a memorial for them, but up to now there has been no memorial for their lives lost. 21 years on, the Joola is still on the ocean floor, and with it strapped bodies of hundreds of victims. Now the affected families have petitioned the government to help them recover the wreckage from the bottom of the ocean so that they can properly lay their dead to rest. Now in 2005, the European Union granted the Senegalese government funds to raise the wreckage, but up to now nothing has been done. Do you want to guess why nothing has been done yet? Let's play a fun game. Just let me know why you think nothing has been done in the comments. Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
So this is the final look. It's alright. It's not wow. It's alright. It's cute. Let us unpack what we have heard today. BBC Africa does like this wonderful documentary that has funded most of my knowledge for this video. I would definitely recommend that you watch it and hear from the survivors yourself. One of the quotes that really stuck with me was when one of the child of a victim, he compared the Joola to a coffin, collective coffin of their parents that have been left at the bottom of the ocean. Bringing out the coffin will let people mourn their deceased. Maybe not the classic story of Jack and Rose, not the classic story of Titanic, but I think that it is our duty to remember the Joola, remember the victims, remember the survivors, and most of all, remember the history. I would love to hear from you what you think about this story. How has it impacted you? Thank you so much for staying with me. I really appreciate you. Please like, tell a friend about me. Oh, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. We want to grow this channel this year. We have some really good things planned. I don't want you to miss out. Share this video with a friend, tell someone about the Joola today. We have to remember the history. This is, yeah, anytime you remember Titanic, you have to remember the Joola. I wish you a great day ahead, and take care of yourself.